Welcome to the Digital Handshake podcast. I'm your host, Scott Jorgensen, and we're actually joined today by a resident of plastic surgery, but one that has done a phenomenal job in developing already a tremendous social media following. Welcome, Dr. Liz Malphrus from Philly.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Fantastic. Well, welcome again. So I understand that you're completing your residency program there at Penn, and you're going to be joining Dr. Bloom's practice there full-time here once you finish your program, which is fantastic. Dr. Bloom's amazing, well-respected, and couldn't have selected a better place, honestly, to start your practice. Tell us a little bit of how'd you become a plastic surgeon?
Not directly, I would say.
Okay.
So I started out my life thinking I wanted to be a classical violinist. That's what I did when I was a kid. I went to a conservatory. I was all in. And then, but I grew up in like a small town in South Carolina, though. So I think I hadn't really seen much of the world before I went to college. Went to college in New York, realized there's a lot other stuff out there to learn. So I ended up transferring to Columbia. Initially, I was always interested in science, always interested in writing and communications. And I spent out some time working in the health policy field first, just because I really liked writing about science. I liked talking to doctors, and I worked at the White House briefly in the Office of Science and Tech Policy, and then at the National Academies, where I wrote like a really big nerdy book about health policy. And then eventually, I think honestly, it was meeting doctors when I was at the National Academies, and I realized, I could probably do this. Like, they don't seem that much smarter than me. I could probably handle it. And so I went back to med school pretty late, so like 5 years after I'd been out of college. In med school, I actually thought I wanted to be a urologist. I had some really great urology mentors. I had a lot of fun with them in the OR. And but then I kind of realized that the cases I liked best in urology were actually the recon cases. And so I sought out some experience in plastic surgery. And once I saw my first case, I was like, this is it. This is where I want to be. This is obviously the best field. I love these people. This has got to be me. So it's certainly not direct. I really wish I'd just met a plastic surgeon earlier and been like, had an opportunity to figure it out earlier on. But I certainly have learned a lot along the way.
Hey, I get it. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to kind of find your passion and your place and sort of the path of life. So I can relate. One thing I noticed as I was doing a little bit of background for the podcast is you got a really fun social media account.
Thanks.
Here you are, sort of last year of residency. She's got over 30,000 followers on Instagram. You've really built, a tremendous audience and following there. Still not even a practicing plastic surgeon, and you've already established a tremendous, online brand and identity. How did you do that?
Well, honestly, it was a little bit of a surprise. When I started, I definitely was not sure this was going to take off. I basically started making videos on Instagram shortly after I decided I wanted to be in private practice. A lot of the advice I got was one of the best things that you can do to set yourself up for success while you're still in residency is to build a brand. And at that point, I was like, I don't know anything about building a brand. I don't know what that means, but the fact that I'm in residency is sort of a special place in that I'm a little bit protected. I'm a student, kind of a student. I'm not out there on my own yet. And so I decided to just start experimenting. So if you don't go all the way back, but if you look all the way back, I tried a lot of different stuff. Some of it's weird. Not all of it worked.
My favorite is when you talk into your high heel shoe.
Yeah. I love
kind of like
one.
the old Maxwell Smart Get Smart episodes. Just some crazy stuff like that, right?
So I feel like that's a great example of the main thing I've felt about like what has made my social media work is that it's been dictated by my limits. So like I have not, sometimes having guardrails on you just makes you more creative. And so like that was stupid, but that was like, I was like, oh, I want to make a video on my phone, but then how will I use a phone? And then I was like, well, I'll just use something stupid for a phone. And so like the hand kind of made sense. That's like a plastic surgery thing. And then I was like, what would a plastic surgeon use as a phone? Probably a pink high heel shoe. So honestly, that's been a lot of how it's worked out.
Of all your videos that you've done, is there one in particular that stands out that kind of just went viral with no explanation?
With no explanation, yes. So and I tell this story often to people who think that social media is silly. One of my early, really popular videos is about a hand journal article. Hand surgery is not my thing. I'm on it right now. It's fine. They're very friendly. I like them, but like it is not my profession. But there's a great article that we talked about in Journal Club called "Why I Hate the Index Finger." It's an article from the 80s. It's just about like the index. If you have to lose a finger, you should lose your index finger. It's like the most useless one. And in plastic surgery hand world, we all kind of know that. But I made a video that was basically like, if you have to lose a finger, which one should you lose and why? And especially on TikTok, that it just went wild. And I was just like, this is a journal article from the 80s. So you just never know what's going to take off.
You don't. And it makes no sense. And I remember talking with a plastic surgeon recently, and he said that his best video was when he wore some really stupid sneakers and then they put some like SpongeBob SquarePants music around it, and it just went crazy. And, here we are, right? Yeah. So there truly is no way to game the algorithm.
Nope.
But a lot of it is trial and error, I imagine. But I got to imagine you've also sort of made some mistakes. You kind of stepped in it a little bit, right? Or maybe said, sure. I don't know if I should have done that. Anything come to mind? Maybe with some lessons learned? For
sure. So I think the main thing I think I've struggled with is when you're a resident, you have to be extra careful because, everyone in your program is watching, everyone at your hospital is watching, and you just have to always keep that in mind. So there actually are a couple of videos I made early on that I ended up ultimately not putting out because sometimes I would film some stuff and then I would like give it a couple days and I would watch it again and be like, I would imagine that I was my program director, Dr. Joshua Fosno, and I'd be like, if he's watching this, like, is he cool with what's happening? And mostly it was things that are too negative. Yeah. I think especially when you're starting out, bringing positivity to things, that's honestly, like I know sometimes negativity works for the algorithm, but that's not what we should be doing. Like, I don't want to put that out in the world. And so there were things where I was like complaining about anesthesia or like, something stupid like that. That's kind of something we all do. That's a joke. I still ended up feeling like that's not what I want my brand to be. And I don't want, to risk upsetting anyone. That's all right. I still think it's super funny when you made fun of the orthopedic surgeons, how they're always like gym bros and stuff like that. I think it's so spot on. They love it. So I got to say, orthopedics as a profession has done a really good job of branding in that way because I think it really works for them. Like at the hospital, like no one expects anything of them. They've just embraced. They're like, yeah, we're stupid about everything about this one thing that we're really smart about. And honestly, like, respect to them. Or the ER doc that always wears the old Patagonia fleece vest and looks like he hasn't slept in 4 days. Yeah. That's just true. They're all wearing vests. I don't know. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's start sort of, widening the lens and looking out to what is social media and digital marketing for Dr. Malphrus can look like, once you step foot out into the real world and begin practicing plastic surgery. So it's something I've been thinking about a lot, yeah. I think I'm going to have to pivot. I honestly don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I'm starting to think about it, and if you're watching closely, I'm doing some kind of more experimental stuff to try to figure things out. But my audience is very much surgical education world right now, and it makes sense. Those are my people. That's what I have to offer right now because I'm in training. It's a special time. I'm able to really speak from a particular experience. And so I know I want to start making more videos for patients. And I think it'll probably be similar to how I first started. Well, I'll probably start with some more traditional stuff like, things I think my patients should know about, breast augmentations, or like what I feel about this topic, which is kind of what I did when I started with education stuff too. Like you start with formats, work. And then I just got to see where things go. I think you just sort of have to be like always thinking, always listening to what people are saying. And that's, I think, where the best ideas come from. It's just sort of random. Yeah. Well, I got posed this question a little bit ago, and actually I want to pose it to you. I'm kind of excited to hear what your response will be. If you had to select from 4 different sort of categories of marketing, I want you to prioritize these from 1 to 4 and tell me why 1, why 2, why 3, et cetera. So one is that you're tremendously well-known in the clinical world for publishing your scientific papers, your data, right? Very prolific in sort of clinical publishing. One is that you've done an amazing job in building out a great website with great video content and education. And your patients really love coming to your site, and they're like, how are these patients spending so many hours on my site, viewing my before and afters, viewing my videos? Like, this is crazy.
Next is social media, that you've developed a really great social media presence and following with thousands or tens of thousands of followers. And again, that's a great vehicle for feeding to your practice through social media. And then lastly is patient testimonials. So you've done an amazing job in getting your, cases and prior patients to write wonderful reviews of you. And you have that great library now to use as a tremendous marketing tool. So what I want you to do is take those 4 and prioritize those for me and why.
Okay. So I'm going to give you the list and then I'll go through just so I don't forget.
Good.
Number 1, social media. Number 2, website. Number 3, patient testimonials. Number 4, academic publishing. So I'll start at the bottom. Honestly, I'm an academic in my soul. Like, I've always been a nerd. I've written a lot of papers. I've written books. Like, I love that stuff. I don't think patients care. I think we should write that stuff for each other. But I also don't know that the format we do right now of writing a paper for PRS and then waiting 18 months for it to be published. I just don't want to, I don't know that that's helping us either. Like, that whole kind of world needs to be rethought, I feel. So I do believe in science and we need to be looking at our results critically, but I don't think for marketing that is important. Above that, patient testimonials. So for sure, patient testimonials, important. We should do it. I do feel that, especially the people that I know, I'm on an age where people are starting to think about plastic surgery. And so I think I'm a little dialed into the millennial mindset about this. We've all read a bunch of glowing Amazon reviews and been yeah, I'm sure. I bet that those people said that. And so I think there's sort of I just think those have become less valuable in the mind of the modern consumer who's really sophisticated about understanding what's real and what's not. And I think especially written testimonials, I don't think are that valuable. I think video testimonials or testimonials from people who are public figures can certainly be valuable, but I would put that more 2 categories up in social media. As far as website, so my feeling, and I'm working on building my website now with Claude. I've just gotten started, but I'm excited about it. I think the point of the website should be once someone decides that they want to have surgery with you, then you get this great opportunity to show them exactly what you're about and also to teach them the kind of information, exactly the information that you want them to know and to frame the whole experience for them. And so to me, having a website that is a resource for your patient during their care experience is important. And I think often overlooked. I've looked at a lot of plastic surgeons' websites recently because I'm working on mine, and a lot of them are not updated. A lot of them don't really kind of walk you through that experience in the way that I want mine to. And then lastly, I'm here because I do social media. I obviously think it's important. I think for patient acquisition, I think social media is how people are finding their doctors now. The first time I heard a patient in clinic say, I did my research on TikTok, I felt like maybe I wanted to die. It kind of hurt me to hear that. But now I've heard it multiple times, and that's just where we are. People are doing their research to learn about this and to find their doctor on social media. And so if you want to capture them at all, if you want them to go to your website, if you want them to know about your patient testimonials, if you want them to know about your research, you have to start there.
Yeah.
Good question. I like that one.
Well, good.
Do you disagree with any of my ordering?
I definitely believe that the one thing that stood out for me is the concept of taking a testimonial and turning it into video. And I think that's the future of digital marketing within plastic surgery, is if you can create many patient journeys, documenting those and having those on your website, and you can also use those. They're tremendous assets for social media. I think those are what patients can relate to. One, if, say, for example, the woman's 5'7", she's 135 pounds, she's considering her breast augmentation, and then you've got a woman, she's like, oh, I'm 5'7". Oh, she's kind of looks like me. Oh, okay, I want to hear her story, right? Connection, right? I think that's where the future of digital marketing, video production, social media marketing is going. The practices that get that, I think, will be very, very successful. And I agree that the written testimonial is sort of passé. It's a little sort of been there, done that, and commoditized. And who knows, who's really that sort of face or patient behind there. So, but you'd mentioned guardrails, and you mentioned guardrails of I know that you're within sort of, the residency program and all that, but, now sort of stepping out and being a practicing plastic surgeon, there's this sort of controversy of selling medicine versus marketing, right? And, really providing good, trusted education. You've done an amazing job from building a social media following. So what concerns you about guardrails now that you're going to be a practicing plastic surgeon, but also trying to grow the audience?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance. And one thing that I'm hopeful is I think because I kind of have a little bit of a head start with mine because I built this already in training, I'm hoping that's going to give me a little more patience to see it through. Because it's very important to me to be true to myself about it and to do it the way that I think it needs to be done and not, put anything out there that's kind of like clickbait or really reaching for our marketing instead of it being hey, if a patient wants to have surgery with me, I want to do their surgery, but it's not I know I'm not everyone's surgeon. No one is. I really do want it to be more this is what I'm all about. Come see me if you want, but it's not I'm out here, trying to sell myself or sell what we do. So I also feel one thing that's been interesting as a resident is obviously I can do no actual patient content. I never speak about patients. Obviously I take care of a lot of patients, but it's, as a resident, I just very early on, I was not worth it, not going to mess around with that. And so I need to figure out how to do that well. And one thing I've thought a little bit about is I don't know that I'm going to do much in terms of patient visuals, at least in my first year while I'm in board collection. I think I want to start out just being able to talk. I'll talk a little more about patients I've met, but in generic terms. But I just think it's a little complicated and a little bit can be fraught in the board collection process. So I'll certainly be collecting before and after pictures, but I don't know that I'm going to do a lot interacting with patients on camera, but we'll see. Beyond, I don't know. It's just, I got to be careful. I think you have to be careful first. And then there's a lot of stuff I don't like that people do. I really don't like, when people put up a picture of a celebrity and there's this is what I think they had done. I'm not interested in that kind of reputation. Right. I don't like that. So I'm going to have to find my own way. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but it probably won't be exactly what everyone else is doing.
Well, I'm excited and say in about 12 to 18 months, have you come back on the Handshake?
Yeah.
And we can do sort of a follow-up, sort of a, hey, part 2 of this interview after you've had some months and years of experience in practicing plastic surgeon to see kind of where your social media, your digital, online marketing has gone now that you're sort of out there, in the real world, so to speak.
I would love that. I'd love to come back and chat because I'm curious to see too how it all turns out.
Well, first off, hats off to the wonderful job that you've done. I know that you're still a resident. Congratulations in joining Dr. Bloom's practice. Thank you so much, Dr. Malphrus, for being on the Digital Handshake with us tonight. We want to thank our sponsors here, Media PSC, for making this episode possible. And again, thank you again for joining us this evening and to our audience, and we'll see you on our next episode.